Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me on this January 25th to celebrate Guiding Light's 87th anniversary. Joining me this afternoon to help celebrate this incredible milestone is one and only Liz Keifer. Liz's connection to Guiding Light began in 1979, long before she joined the cast and took over the role of Blake Thorpe in 1992. Liz, like most of us here today, was a fan of the show, and she got to play this pivotal and incredible role for 17 years. Before Guiding Light came calling, she appeared on The Young and the Restless, Days of Our Lives, and General Hospital, and I think One Life to Live, if I'm not mistaken. In addition to her daytime roles, Liz appeared in several hit primetime series, which blows my mind. Happy Days, Cheers, The Facts of Life, Full House, Married with Children, to name a few. Liz continues to act, but she also spends her time as a relationship and self-belief coach. She will be launching a new video podcast, Parts Well Played, and she will tell us all about it. Please help me welcome back to the locker room, Liz Keifer. Hello.
Alan, hello. Oh, wow. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Wow. Happy birthday.
Marler.
Yay. I love this. Marler. Yeah.
There we go. There we go. First of all, I can't think of anyone better to celebrate with today.
Oh, thank you so much. I can't think of anyone better. I mean, you're the glue. You keep us all connected, and which is what Guiding Light's always been about, right?
It really has.
Yeah.
You started 1979. Who introduced you to the show?
That's always a funny story because I started watching it looking for a high school friend of mine so her name was Julie Phillips, and she graduated a couple of years before me, and she went off to New York to be an actor, and I thought it was so excited. And I heard she got a role on a soap playing a nurse, and
It's coming back to me. I totally remember that.
And so basically I got mixed up because actually she was on, I think it was Days of Our Lives. I think it was actually or As the World Turns. I'm not even sure. I can't even remember because I started watching Guiding Light thinking she was on that, and I was waiting for her to show up. I just had it the wrong show, and I got hooked completely by accident. And Morgan and Kelly were, at Laurel Falls, and I'm a teenager in love with Morgan.
John Wesley.
And yes, John Wesley. I was tongue-tied when I met him in person. And I just would have, little daydreams that I was Morgan, Kristen Vigard, who ended up playing my sister on One Life to Live. We played sisters, which was really
that. I mean, all of that must have been mind-blowing to you.
It was mind-blowing.
Her playing, and then coming to Guiding Light, which we'll get to, but yeah, I mean, that's bizarre. Well, Jill Laurie says, hello, gorgeous. Nancy Watt says, love that face.
Hello. Oh, thank you. Hi, my
So
beauties.
Kelly and Morgan, what other storylines hooked you back then?
Ross and Vanessa. Absolutely. Vanessa I was just mesmerized by her. Absolutely. She was the most beautiful, stunning in that voice and those eyes. And
Do you remember
Ross,
when she ran over Riva with the car?
Oh my gosh.
I think she was popping pills.
Oh yes. I did. Yeah, that was very unnerving to me. I was like, why is she?
Yeah.
What? She's a drug addict now? I know. I was like, oh, also Ben and Eve.
It's funny when people ask favorite things and what I remember. I do remember them a lot. I remember them a lot.
I remember her like always being vulnerable, right? And he was the painter.
Somebody just said Ben Warren. No, not Ben Warren, not Hunt
No,
Block.
no,
Way before.
way
Way before.
Eve, she was blind.
Yeah, totally.
And
Totally.
I don't know Ben's last name.
Eve Guthrie. No, that's not. No, Eve Guthrie.
No,
Ben
this is
McFerrin. I
Ben
love. Thank you,
McFerrin.
Original Six. Ben
Thank,
McFerrin.
thank you. Yeah, no, Eve Guthrie was what I originally auditioned for.
Right. Yes. Yes.
I screen tested for her first
With Vincent Irizarry.
with Vincent Irizarry, and absolutely.
Eve Stapleton. Oh, Jill. Woo, Jilly.
Good. And they were always in a little cabin in the woods.
Yes. Yeah.
There's like their set. I remember their set. Yeah.
Yeah. God. Eve Howard is who you auditioned for, not Eve Stapleton.
Oh, okay.
Right? Not the blonde Eve.
No.
No, Eve, who was played by Hillary Edson.
Yeah. And she was wonderful, and she was perfect for it, and I wasn't.
No, and yeah, no. You were.
I remember I think Joanne might have done my screen test, and she was like, "You're kind of. You sure you want to play it this sexy?" I was like, "Oh, yeah. I don't think I can do the stoic thing. I tried that on General Hospital. It didn't work."
Now, knowing we're coming in and screen testing, and we'll get to Betty Ray and all of that. But for the first part, not even Blake, for Eve, was that a mind, your head exploding that you were walking through the doors of Springfield to possibly work on this show?
Oh, absolutely. The fact that it was Guiding Light, I knew I was on the right path, because I had also made basically a deal with the universe, because I had spent a good 10 years being a gypsy actor in Los Angeles and doing all the nighttime. I just was everybody's girlfriend, I made a living doing that, and the various soaps, but none of them ended up, becoming home for me. And I was just ready to say, maybe this isn't right. Maybe I just need to do something else. And I was looking into editing, and because I really love editing and sound editing, and I kind of made a deal. I was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore, unless it's Guiding Light. If it were Guiding Light, that would be a different story. And then I met Betty Ray. And
did you know of her prior?
No, I did not realize what an icon that I was meeting with, but I recognized it immediately when I had the meeting with her, because I really did come in a bit guarded and, don't make me like you because I'm ready to leave the business. I was very protected, and she just melted right through that. And I actually, when I finished meeting with her, she was so heartfelt, and we had such a great audition. Of course, she just asked me about me and my family, because that's what she's interested in. Who are you as a person?
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't used. It was almost like I wasn't used to anybody being kind to me like that. And I got in the business, like, people were good, but they weren't like that Betty Ray. And I got into my car and just sobbed after that first audition. And I knew that this was going to, I was like, oh, I'm heading in that direction. So, yeah.
I just rewatched our first interview from April of 2020, and Jerry recalled Betty sidling up to him after you came in and said, "We found our Blake."
Oh gosh,
talk about that very first day, because Betty Ray took you around the set, and remind the viewers what Jerry did for you.
Oh, but this was my first day being, I had been cast, and I was being brought around to be introduced, and just to, this is our set and our stage manager, and Jerry was on stage, and I walked in, and he just stopped everybody, and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Elizabeth Keifer." And he this huge welcoming, and my heart was just, I was so overwhelmed and so grateful. And he's such a wonderful warmth. I mean, he welcomes everybody, but
yeah, totally. And I can't, I know, like, as a fan for myself and walking through being hired in PR, but I can't even imagine, like, if I was hired and then, you were watching him and Vanessa, like, it's really,
right. Oh, yeah. It's so interesting. I was more intimidated to meet Maeve and Maureen because these women were I just felt like I couldn't even compare myself. I shouldn't even be in the same room with these women. Like, they were
You
royalty.
said that in our previous interview, and I was going to ask you. Because I didn't remember that you were intimidated. To think that either one of them could intimidate is funny because they are so
I know.
not that.
They're not like that at all. But it's the perception, right? But Jerry was interesting because I was so geared up and ready to play Blake, and he doesn't impose that kind of. He's so welcoming, and he's so personable, and he treats everybody this way. I mean, Jerry is just such a mensch, and so I wasn't intimidated in that way. If anything, I was just excited to let me do this. If anybody's going to do this, I'm going to do this. Because Sherry was equally as intimidating. I mean, she was amazing. But as long as she was walking away,
the door is open for you. The door is open. Before
the door's open,
I don't think
I'm in it.
Fans can see this, but thank you, Lee Siegel. I'm using my lighthouse glass today to have my seltzer. While we're talking about Jerry, what do you miss most?
Oh, it's the little things. It's the coffee and the Tic Tacs and the morning chats and really it is the chat. It's the bonding in the dressing room, and he saw me through so many stages of my life. And the humor and laughter and yeah, and how we could pick apart scenes and make them fun and make them interesting to play no matter what. Yeah. Also, I miss Jerry's such a wonderful man, and it's like there was no glass ceiling. He allowed me to be as big as I wanted to be, and he supported it. And it's not always the case. I've thought about this. It's like, that's why I felt so safe with him. He's just so supportive. Well, he was that way with everybody, but I realized for me, I didn't realize this was something I had been seeking and wanting until I found it. A partner like that, a co-star like that just supported me no matter what. And he wanted everybody to do well. I mean, he was just genuinely an ensemble plus a leading man, so.
Absolutely. Well, speaking, the Emmy reels for Jerry, you put them together.
Yeah.
What was that process like, and how did it come to you to be the one to pick them?
Because he hated to do anything. I was his girl Friday when it comes to that. It's like he wouldn't answer the phone. The phone was scary. You answer the phone for me. Like,
you had a unique knock for the door. He'd only
I scratch on the door meant I'm here. I scratched. I'm like an animal. That's because he was we called him Bear for a reason. Like, he would go and burrow. He as gregarious and wonderful as he was, he also had a side to him that was very reserved, interior, and quiet, and didn't want to be around people. So I was very good at navigating it, and I understood it, and I gave him space to do that. So yeah, he just was like, it was almost like I was nominated. He was nominated, and he's like, I don't know what to do. You pick it. And of course I said, okay, I will, because I know your work really well. I've known your work since 1979. And I just went for the contrasting. He had such amazing dramatic scenes, and then his comedy was not to be, there was second to none. I mean, he was amazing.
Were
So
you watching when he was with Jane Elliott?
Yes, I did. I was
personalities.
Yeah. There were periods of time where I think when I was actually on One Life to Live and on other shows that I didn't watch it so consistently. Although I have to admit, I would tell people, like, you really all should be watching Guiding Light. It's really good.
Exactly. Giacomo says you haven't aged a bit.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank my mother for the genes.
It was quite devastating for all of us, I'm sure, for Jerry, for you, in the early 2000s when those budget cuts came and it led to Jerry's abrupt departure. Can you just, we're all human beings, the difficulty of, that for you and what for Jerry?
Yeah, it was difficult for both of us on so many different levels. Where to begin? This is where, first of all, I didn't know he was leaving until the night before he left, literally the night before he started. So it was a very abrupt. Although I did know that One Life to Live had been courting him. I did know that. And rightly so. I mean, they saw a good thing. And it was just such a shame how, they were going to take him off contract. And I understand that he was never going to allow that to happen. So I was in this, part of me was very happy for him, and very happy that he had something to go to, because he deserved it. And
oh my God, he so
really deserved it. And I was very unhappy for me that he was leaving. And it was very difficult. And then it happened so quickly. I felt like the rug had just been pulled out from underneath me. So it took me a while to find my balance again. And it was hard for him. He was, he was not happy, about
you devote all those years, and for that to happen so abruptly.
The fact that he was angry it was happening, but he was going to do something about it, and he went where he needed to go, and
succeeded
Erica
quite well
from his, and Erica's wonderful. We've both actually, Erica, Beth, and I have had wonderful conversations together, being the wives. Beth is wife 1, I'm wife 2, and Erica's wife 3.
and isn't, that speaks volumes to who he was too. Just the love all 3 of you have for him, like it's not a false,
no, not at all. And it speaks a lot about Beth, but Beth and I are very close. And it all started when Jerry was diagnosed,
the first time.
The first time. And that was like 10, good. When was that? 1994, 1995?
Yeah, about 10 years before.
Yeah, right? 10 years before he left. And I was I was very close to the family. They kind of took me in when I first moved to New York, and I didn't know any before I got married. and I came to the Thanksgivings, and I was in their basement for the weekend. I'd be like, Liz is here. She's an orphan. So we had this dual shadow family thing happening. But Beth was great when I said, how can I help you? What can I do? And she was the one who said, I just need you to not change anything. I need you to be exactly who you are to Jerry, because this is the only area in his life that hasn't been affected and challenged identity wise. That was so rough for him. And so she basically said, be that wife, when at work, and give him your energy. Don't, and so I was like, wow, she's amazing. And, okay. So, it was a really beautiful blessing. There's so much love there. Yeah.
Well, his leaving left you as a solo act. PPAC came, you stayed on your feet till the end and gave Frank Cooper that much needed life. What were those years post Jerry like for you?
Oh, a death and rebirth. Basically, they were rough. They were rough because it was like they didn't know what to do with me. Without Jerry, I was so tied to him, and it was still. It felt like there were still strange feelings around Jerry leaving, and like, should they use me, or maybe they shouldn't? I felt like I was just all over the place. But honestly, it's where I found my true sense of power, because I went through a lot. And I got really small and scared and and then I kind of came out through the other end, and I turned it around, and it's kind of where my coaching started with just, I decided to be a different version of myself. I stepped into who I would be if I had all these things waiting for me, and I kept it a secret. I just didn't tell anybody, but it just affected my self-worth and my self-belief. I found it again. I kind of lost it, and then I found it again, if that makes sense. That's just a very short version. And
was there something that helped, something or someone who helped you find yourself again? Or was it,
no, it was, I got angry. I just got angry and disgusted at how I was struggling to survive there. And it's so many things were being taken. My status had changed, and when we moved, I didn't have a dressing room any longer. And, and at one point I literally, because I didn't have a dressing room, because I wasn't technically under contract, I had to go around and be a gypsy and use other people's dressing rooms. And because it wasn't my dressing room, I wasn't given the code to unlock the door. Like, the door automatically locks. And so if I needed to leave the dressing room to use the ladies' room, I'd have to have somebody walk me back to my room and punch the code in from, wardrobe and I was putting a shoe in the door so I could get in and out. That's when I said, all right, well, no more of this. and something switched inside, and I just decided that I would show up differently. And but it was an internal thing.
Good for you. Not all of us can recognize the need to do that, because you do let certain things eat at you, and they can have a negative.
Yeah. I went into, I have to survive, and my particular survival mechanism is to get small and don't rock the boat, which is so not Blake, right? So I literally went, hello, where's the Blake within you? Come on. Blake wouldn't handle it this way. This is where you can use acting to help. So I started applying acting principles to my own life. And that's when I started going, wait a minute, I found something here. And I turn the energy around within me. And then whatever you're feeling, other people are going to feel. That is the enacting principle as well. So I started just showing up a little bit differently, where I could look people in the eye. And because this is all coaching stuff, but anger fuels you. It's a fuel. It's there for a reason to restore your power. So I used it. I used my own anger, but instead of sitting and stewing in it, I flipped it. I transmuted it into like something really powerful. So by the time the show actually went off the air, I was great. I was fine. The show was no longer my source of identity, and it wasn't my source. And before it was, because the minute it got taken away from me, and suddenly I was nothing. I was like, uh-oh.
I think many people, their jobs do become their identity.
Absolutely.
And when that rug is pulled, and that has got to be hard, when you have been under contract, had your own dressing room. Yeah. I mean, those, they may seem little on the outside, but they're not, because it's how you're treated. It's the respect. It's a combination of
the
many
ability
things.
to take up space.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I was like, wow, that's been slowly like, and I went with it, and it's, it's wild. So I have to say that shaped me in a way. I'm super resilient and strong and filled with so much wellness within now because of that. So, there you go.
As you said, I think before we went live, everything sort of happens for a reason.
Yeah, it does. And it was hard though to be there without Jerry.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah.
It's like it's the blanket,
Yes.
It's that comfort. Mark says, I'll never forget when Liz Keifer took over the role seamlessly. It was right when Holly learned the truth about Ross and Blake. Holly was mad as she could be. Holly, Maureen Garrett, you being intimidated at first. Talk about that relationship that blossomed into a beautiful friendship.
Yeah, it did. It really did. Because she's so present and human, and she really appreciated that I brought a little more of the love that Blake actually really did feel, even though it wasn't. We said we didn't, but I always played it that of course I did, but this is not happening. And she really appreciated that, because she needed to see something. She needed to find it, that they could find that there was actual mother-daughter relationship in there. So she's so easy. I mean, she's just wonderful. We were roommates at one point too. We had the same. We had shared a dressing room at the old studio at one point. That was fun.
And that's funny, that you were intimidated by both Maeve and her, and Maeve and her used to share a dressing room too, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, and Maeve ended up just being so wonderful and fabulous. She gave me such great advice. She was just such a lovely, she has a great perspective on life, and she was able to share that perspective with me from time to time. And
both of them class acts.
Class acts.
Amy says, when I first started watching the show, I thought you were sisters.
Yeah, well,
let's watch a little.
Oh dear.
What's the matter, honey? Can't take the heat?
Oh, you think this is funny, making my life miserable?
Oh, so how's it feel?
I didn't do anything to you. This is not about you. So why don't you just butt out of my life and find one of your own? Why does it keep funny, but he's still interested?
You are vicious.
Yeah, well, how does it feel, Mom?
Look, I don't know what's happened between you and Loverboy now, but you started this whole thing to hurt me. and you flaunt it. And you rub my face in it, and it's humiliating. You want to play dirty? Like you learned from Daddy? Well, fine, honey. You got it.
Oh, you go, girl. Yeah.
I love that.
That's when, that's when my hair dried curly in the scenes, and suddenly it could establish that Blake could have curly hair as well.
So funny. What
He's-
what was it like being Daddy's little girl and sparring with Michael? You know, being Daddy's little girl on one side and
Exhilarating. He was such a fierce talent. So that was fun. I loved going back and forth. I loved the dance. I love you. I hate you. Are you my? We're together. You're my enemy. He could do anything. Again, he could be anything. So easy to do. Just show up and play with him. He was so good. So, and
any intimidating feeling about the that you'd be working opposite him?
yeah, I was intimidated by him. Absolutely.
I think I would have been literally taking, anxiety medicine.
Yeah. And I don't know if I told you this before. I had met him years and years and years ago, like early 80s, when I worked at a video editing place. I was the secretary, and he came in. This was in Los Angeles obviously, and it was like maybe 1983. I mean, it was, and he came in to do his demo reel, and I could not speak. I was intimidated, and I was a blubbering idiot. Yeah. And I never told him that I'm not going to tell him that I was that girl. I cannot do that. And I never did. Years later, when I came on the show, I was like,
I can't do it. Can't do it. Yeah. And talk about another hard, situation.
That was hard. Yeah.
So difficult for everybody. Michael, most of all.
Oh, absolutely. But I know the last time I saw him, his heart was so huge. I felt it. I didn't, you can feel it. And it was really, really sweet.
Oh, I love hearing that.
Yeah.
What do you remember about your weddings? Your two weddings. Your two weddings to Jerry.
2 weddings, yeah. The first one, I was sick. I remember that. I remember him just totally. I was dizzy. I had a sinus thing. I was, yeah. So I remember him caretaking for me. He was awfully good about that, because I get low blood sugar, and he would keep, like an animal, he would keep nuts and granola bars in his pocket or whatever, because he'd see my eyes glaze over. I think you need to eat now. But yeah, that first wedding was just amazing. It was amazing. I remember the huge wedding dress. And the second one was
let's have a look at that.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
My love, I've waited so long for you that I had begun to believe that there was no such thing as real love, and that I would spend my life out in vain searching for that perfect someone for me. After many missteps and sorrows, after I had given up hope, you came to me like a miracle. A single elegant star in the darkest of nights.
There's Eve.
Yep.
Loving you has forever changed me. You are my friend, my teacher, my accomplice, and my lover. With you, I feel joy. I feel whole. And I feel that anything's possible.
Everything but that lover part, it was,
Right.
Your relationship,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Because we were we were such a great team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I told you about the psychic that told me that Jerry and I were brother and sister in a past life in
No.
in Egypt.
Wow.
I did. I had a reading at one point. And there's this you. I got.
Oh,
He had a field day with that. That was fun.
BWF says your heart was in your eyes. I love
Oh,
that.
yeah. I
Love
remember
that.
Jill, executive producer Jill.
Yeah.
When I first came on, she was somebody that she was trying to give me she really wanted to make sure that I worked, right? That I worked as Blake. And she called me in her office and she said, you know what? I just want you to love him. That was it. She said, just look into his eyes and love him. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was so beautiful. I'll never forget it. But it was one of those, just do it.
And
Like,
that's why it worked.
yeah, yeah.
And why we're here today. People loved
Yeah.
you two together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's so funny. And I seriously, my next question, which was a Jill Laurie one. You worked for a fascinating group of VPs from Jill Farron Phelps to
Yeah.
Ellen. How did
Yeah.
that affect your day to day?
Oh, well, I mean, it affected how they, certain ones treated women, certain ones treated the Ross and Blake. There are ones, I mean, I can't, I've totally disassociated and gone blank over the one that took me off contract.
Is that John Conboy?
Oh, that was John Conboy. Yes.
I just assumed because John wasn't he wasn't good for guiding light.
He wasn't, and it was Maureen and me and all, it was all the beginning of just like get rid of the veterans, or don't get rid of them, but certainly don't hold on to them.
Don't respect them.
Don't respect them.
Don't respect them, or don't respect us, the audience.
Yeah, that one was rough. So he was the hardest for me. Roush he's a character. Rest in peace.
Smart and talented, but he could rough around the edges.
He was rough. But I'd already worked with him on One Left to Live, of which he totally replaced all the sisters. Well, he really did get rid of all the three sisters, but he replaced my character. She came back a year later as a hooker, because that was his whole thing always, the underbelly. I want to see the underbelly. I don't want to see heartfelt characters. I want to see them be turned into hookers, and that was kind of rough. But yeah, he was a rough character. Yeah. But he was smart. He made some great moves. And then also, I think that's when Fiona left with Roush, which I never understood.
When they killed Jenna,
yeah.
Well, that's like killing Maureen was
Yeah.
Jill.
Yeah. So it was questionable,
Crazy.
But
crazy,
yeah,
crazy.
It's a different energy. You can really feel it. You can feel, what whoever's leading on top, the energy filters down.
And I would think as writers and as actors, it's a little nerve-wracking when a new EP comes in, because your job is really sort of on the line. I don't want to say like it's not necessarily on the line, but it could be on the line, because you don't know what that EP likes,
right?
Who he thinks is talented as a writer.
Right.
I mean, it could be any department, but I'm sure those are the two that the EP immediately goes to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You had a lot of life changes at Guiding Light. You
Oh, I
married
did.
Bobby.
I
You
did.
had Isabella and Kiefer.
Isabella and
I mean,
Kiefer.
what was it? Well, first of all, one of the fans, and I didn't remember which, I saw the question go by. They were asking what made you decide to name Kiefer Kiefer.
Oh, my maiden name, because he was the first. He was the only grandson. There are no boys that were carrying the Kiefer name. This is all daughters, you know. And I was my Bobby, who said, "We're naming. We're going to keep it in the family." And that is an old Victorian tradition, to take the surname of the mother and give it. Usually, it's to the second child. So it wasn't completely out of the ordinary, but it's such a unique name, and
It is. I love
loves it.
unique names when
He's
people.
Yeah. And my daughter Oma Bella sometimes goes, you could have named me Kiefer.
You could have.
I could have.
You really could have.
Absolutely.
But what was it like having all of those things happen at?
It was wonderful. I've thought about this. It's as if life imitated art, because seriously, Blake did everything first. Blake got married first. The fact that Blake had the baby, the twins, and I wore a pillow for 9 months. And then I have Bella, and I hide her for 9 months. I thought it was like, but yeah, it's almost like I let Blake take the lead, and I kind of went, oh, this is good. This is good. Granted, I met, Bobby has been in my life. He had been in my life before. We were together. We broke up for 4 years, and then we got back together again when I was in New York, because we used to.
Where did you first meet?
In California. He came. See, he lived in New York, up in Syracuse. I live in Los Angeles, and his brother Michael Convertino is a wonderful film composer. Retired now, but was at the time like A-list movies. And during my acting gypsy years, I spent a 6-month period as his personal assistant when he was working on one of whatever film he was working on, Children of a Lesser God or something. And my job was to pick Bobby up at the airport. So that's how I was like, take care of him. And that's how we met. But we had our own saga. We have a great story. But we were together, and then I broke it off. And then we got back together again once after I was back on my feet. And, because I was just totally on unemployment and just I'm not ready. I don't need a man to take care of me. I need to take care of myself. And I just went and made sure that happened.
And I think those things of separating and coming back together make you so much,
because we chose to get married. We didn't get married because it was what we're supposed to do. It's
how long are you together now?
27 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's
No,
great.
he's a good one. And he adored. I mean, he also was in love with Jerry too. We were all like, Jerry and Bobby would cook. They're the chefs, right? Beth and I didn't. We were like, no. And Jerry and Bobby have matching aprons that Jerry gave Bobby one with his, and they put the aprons on. They would make Thanksgiving. They're both that cloth. So we were like
lucky
great.
Women.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Lucky women. I mean, I'm a lucky man because Ray does the cooking. So
it's great.
It is great. Kate Sarnoff asked, what do you remember about the scene with Jerry and Hunt, with Ross and Ben and the handcuffs? Kate says that it was the most racy thing she had ever seen on daytime. Okay.
The scene with the handcuffs.
I think you were, I don't remember myself. I'll wait to see if anybody else will tell us.
Somebody give me a little more information on that one. I might have, all of that took place after I had just had Bella, and I came back.
Somebody was just asking if you were pregnant during the Ben.
Yeah. I was pregnant, and I was pregnant during. So,
Speaking of,
Yeah, there we go. Either I'm pregnant here or I've just
you
come
might
back from maternity leave. I think I'm pregnant in that just beginning. Um,
that
because
was
I
a
came
fun
back 4 weeks and I came back.
that
Um,
was really fun.
that was great. What is with the handcuffs?
Yeah, somebody probably will tell us. So wait, I forgot to show some of these.
I mean, we're talking. Oh yeah.
And then somebody sent me this, which I don't remember seeing.
Oh yeah, this was from People Magazine.
That's
And they
amazing.
had 20 years. It was the 20th anniversary. It was like 20 years of uh, like I forget what the theme of the show was, but it was these were all the Blakes, and it was an anniversary
Yeah, that it
deal.
maybe.
And I remember I flew out to Los Angeles. I was there for 48 hours.
Oh my God.
And that's when the big earthquake happened, when I was at the hotel in 1992.
Oh God.
Yeah, and I had flown out just for this photo shoot, and I was the first flight out of LAX back to New York after that,
Wow.
because it happened at 2 in the morning. So yeah, and it was an opportunity it was the first time I met Sherry. Well, no, I met her in the makeup room when I first when she was still
This
ending.
was so great
Oh yeah,
with Dr. Sharisa Shamoro.
I love her. She's so great. We had fun.
You handcuffed Ben to the bed.
Oh,
Somebody said, Mistress Midnight, you were trying to get a confession out of him.
yes, I know.
And I think it was videotaped.
I think I remember it now. Yeah, it was racy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He liked that. Yeah, that's right. He was like, "Oh yeah, we're good."
Hunt is a grandfather.
He really? Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Hunt is a grandfather. That's crazy. But yeah, Dr. Sharisa Shamoro. I did not recall this. Singing was your first love?
Yeah, singing. Yeah, all through junior high, high school. I was singing was always like I was in the madrigal groups and the choirs, and then I got into the musicals, and I got into acting because I had to learn how to act to sing to be in the musicals. But the singing was I led with the singing.
That's
Absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you still ever?
I do. I mean, the last thing I did was Nonsense. Right pre-pandemic. So that was sort of a belty. I was that was Mother Superior. It was fun. Yeah. But yeah. I love singing. Singing brings me into my body. It's something I've always had that's just been mine. I just love.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what prompted the move to acting from there?
Well, I was in Los Angeles, and it was I loved doing theater. I loved theater so much. And I actually got an agent. See, life has come at me. Sometimes it's just been like, what? I actually was with Michael Convert, my now brother-in-law. I was with him while he was having a meeting with an agent, and I was in the waiting room, and the agent came out and said, "I need who are you?" He asked, like, this agent said, "Who is that that's in the waiting room?" And they're just like, "That's just my personal assistant." And they said, "Is she an actor?" And he just went, "Yeah." And so I ended up like getting an agent. So like that was for commercials. And then I just got right into the union. Um, and then I started working with a really wonderful acting teacher and at an Academy of Stage and Cinema Arts. And then I just really loved it. But I really was thrown into acting even before I knew what I was doing. Young and the Restless, I had not a clue. I learned on set. I was just a teenager. I was, or no, yeah, I was 19.
Do you remember, who did you work with there?
I worked with Beth Maitland. Beth Maitland and I came on at the same time. I came on as her friend. We came on as a summer storyline.
Yeah.
And I was there to take over, to take the place of the storyline of she oh gosh, Melody Thomas. She was out on maternity leave, and so I had a storyline with Peter. He's a wonderful, famous actor. His wife was in the mental institution, and he was dating the pianist Leslie.
Yeah, Leslie Brooks.
Leslie Brooks and Peter Brown. And I was Peter Brown's daughter. And I thought my mother had died, but really she had been in a mental institution. And he was falling in love with Leslie Brooks, and they were about to get married. And then my mother miraculously wakes up. And then we have to deal with the fact that I actually have a mother now. And that was my story.
I didn't realize you were part of the, Beth Maitland coming onto the show story.
I came on as her best friend. We were in boarding school or something, and then we were spending the summer in Genoa.
So did you work with Michael Damian?
Michael Damian. I sure did.
Danny Romalotti. Wow, that's amazing.
Danny Romalotti, yeah.
Are there clips to that? I need to look.
Oh my God, I hope
not. I wanted to ask before we got off Guiding Light, you played Blake as a sexy, funny, heartbreaking leading lady, but she was also a terrific girlfriend to Harley, Mel, Natalia. How important are friendships in serial storytelling? And what was that like for you, who I know values friendship so much? And this is one of my favorite photo shoots we ever did.
Oh, amazing. I love that. I'll just stay there forever. This is great. Yeah. Look at those two. Yeah, very important. And such strong women. I mean, they're still important in my life. Ivana lives right over the river, and, it's been a couple of years since I've talked to Beth, but I see the scenes come up, periodically. And every time that there's a Harley and Blake scene, I'm just like, okay, give me the popcorn. I want to watch again. They're wonderful. They're fabulous. And also Kim, loved working with Kim. Anytime we had a chance to have a little bit, every once in a while we'd get a little like, oh, give us a little Reva Blake. But yeah, they're important, and I'm glad that we were given that strong, and Cassie.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Laura, speaking of friendship, you spent New Year's with Fiona.
And I spent New Year's with Fiona and John. They live about an hour north of us, and we love them. And they're really good. They love Bobby so much, and yeah, that was almost like a last minute, like come down, and they're so much fun. Fiona's great, and so is John. Have you seen some of his videos on Instagram?
I'm going to follow him. I need to.
Oh, he's a funny man. Oof, John Viscardi.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, he has videos with his dad was in the hospital, and he has videos of him trying to feed his dad applesauce, and he does a whole routine on the applesauce. And I mean, I know it's like, what? But you go watch it. You'll be like,
I will. I loved Fiona and I did a one-on-one. It was really great. It was really, really sweet. Dee just said, ask you about India calling you Blaze. I don't remember that, but I can only imagine Mary Kay, how it came out of her mouth.
She did. I remember that. I don't remember the context of the scene, but I remember her calling. I love her. She was a blast.
I mean, what a great character, for the show. She was a great,
she was
so different than everybody else in a lot of ways, you know, just that's what made her,
Yeah.
you know, the way she played it came out. Do you have any memory? I mean, I'm sure you do, but of your first thing, Lou Grant?
Oh God, that was my first. And honestly, I got that show before I had an agent. I didn't have an agent. I heard about it. I was working in I was working as a waitress while I was at UCLA. I was working, and a waiter said, "Hey, they're looking for an 18-year-old, like an 18-year-old blonde at Hill Street Blues, actually." And he gave me the name of the casting person. I sent my picture and resume with my home phone number, saying, you know, I don't have any representation. I'm presently looking for it, but I heard you were looking. And I got called in because the casting director showed it to the director of this Lou Grant, and he just loved my picture. And they brought me in. Like, this stuff is, I had magical fairies coming down, you know, this stuff is unheard of. And I did this, it was George Stanford Brown who directed, and he happened to know the acting teacher that I was working with at the time. And he basically on the spot said, if you give this to her, because I was working with Carmen Zapata at the time, you can have this role. And from there, I just sort of asked an agent, would you like to represent me? And it was this girl that was, we were a film within a film. So we were a film that was supposed to be controversial, about a violent film and how it could affect, have violent influence on people, on kids watching it. And I was supposed to be this girl that had just gotten married to a guy that was in a gang. So I was this little thing, and he was sort of a gang member, and we were and the gang came and beat him up. And I had to drag him and put him in the back of the car and go after this gang member and run them down. There was this whole thing of screaming, and the hardest part of it was getting the guy who played my husband into the back of the car. He was.
But you worked on so many amazing shows at the start. Like, you just kept getting.
I just one after another. Yeah.
Happy Days, Full House, Cheers, Facts of Life, My Two Dads, Charles in Charge. I mean, how rough must it have been working with, you know, George Clooney, John Stamos?
Yeah, all of them. I kissed them all.
do you have a favorite?
A favorite? Oh, geez.
See this one?
Oh my gosh, John Stamos. He was a cutie. Yeah, that is pretty good. I need that picture. Oh my God, look at that hair. I remember that week I was quitting smoking.
Somebody else just said that hair. You said the same thing.
Yeah, that hair was like put my finger into a socket, an electrical socket. I was 80s.
Do you have a favorite of all the, you know,
a favorite? You know, they were so wonderful. I'll tell you, I loved Henry Winkler a lot. He was really, really good to me. I was so nervous, and I was so nervous that I couldn't stop moving. I was just like, you know, and he was always distracting me or doing something to get me, so I would get out of my self-consciousness. Like, I could see what he was doing. He was lovely, man. Ted Danson in Cheers was so nice. Oh my gosh. Although I worked with Woody Harrelson, but Ted, I was there the whole week. So, you know, I just remember Ted Danson and the My Two Dads. I
love that show. That was a fun show. Greg, somebody.
Greg. I was with him, and
was it Paul?
Paul Reiser.
Yeah.
So nice. So nice. You know, you have to have a good energy.
Oh my God. Tony, who's watching, knows this. Lawrence Lau was on the same episode of Happy Days with you. Do you know that?
No. Was he one of the students? Because Happy Days, I was a student.
He said Lawrence Lau was on the Happy Days episode with Liz. Lawrence Lau played Greg on All My Children.
Yeah, I know who he is.
Wow.
I have to go back and think about that. Fonzie was a substitute teacher for health education, and I had to be a student that thought I was pregnant. I asked him, "How do you get pregnant?" And in class, and then he tells us and gets like they're going to fire him, and then he's in front of the board of ed or
Greg
something.
Evigan. I knew it was Greg Evigan.
There we go. That's my two.
Yeah. Did you watch Henry on Barry?
Yeah. He's amazing.
Amazing.
He's amazing.
Amazing.
I went up. I saw him at the Emmys. I think the last time I was at the Emmys with Jerry, actually, and I went up to him and I said, "You were like my first job. I love you so much," and he was so nice.
I love that.
Thank
Who
you.
were some of your mentors along the way, or mentors today?
Oh, well, my teachers were amazing, but they were acting teachers and coaches. So I had a wonderful one, Hank Bearings. He was amazing. So though Hank, and then David Alexander was great. Jerry. I learned so much from Jerry. I can't even.
I bet.
I just learned so much. Finally, it was just a really safe place to learn. I think that's what I love about him. He made everybody feel safe, you know. And yeah, I mentors. I have a lot of teachers, a lot of coaching teachers. You know, not necessarily those that. Well, I do love my Rock Hudson story about when I worked with him on whatever that show was that he did at the end of towards the end of his career. It was a TV show, and again, a teenager. And
oh wow.
I didn't have a place to sit on set. We were on location in front of a house, and I had to play the daughter of whoever he was dating. And they did all the rehearsals, and then we had to go walk away while they set the lighting, and I didn't know what to do. And I was like standing behind a tree. He's like, "Liz, why aren't you sitting? Like, what are you doing?" And I was like behind a tree, and I said, "Well, I don't have a chair." And he pulled up a chair. He found one of those director's chairs and put it beside him. And he said, "Here, sit, permission to take up space." And that was just so, you know, in a way, that's a mentor. I have moments. I have people who took care of me.
Well, and they stick with you.
And they stick with me.
They stick with you.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about, you know, your passion over the last few years has been helping others and working as a relationship empowerment coach. What do you love about this work, and what is Liz Keifer's approach to it?
It's the transformation. I love helping people to be in right relationship to themselves, so they can be in right relationship to others. And so much of it is I'm just sharing what I have found and how my life has turned around, and how I have learned I can draw on resources and empowerment that I wasn't able to before. Sometimes I could, but I didn't know how and why or where. You know, it would be so. And I work with this modality of internal family systems. It's IFS, and it's all about that parts psychology, that you're made up of kind of like a family of parts. You have lots of parts within you that all have roles, you know, and you sort of call upon what needs to be of service at the moment. And I learned how to navigate acting because I used to think I was crazy. How could I be all these different people? I didn't understand. How can I be this and then one day and this the next, and it be so easy? And I realized I was just stepping into something and using my imagination and just stepping into a part of me and saying, "You're up front today. You take the lead." And I kind of would pull other parts of me back because they didn't serve the story. It's like, what serves the story? Who would I be if? And I realized I do this all the time for acting. So then with my coaching, when I especially when I found out about IFS, of which I'm an IFS informed coach, not a therapist, because there are a lot of therapies out there. I don't deal with the trauma end of it, but I deal with like helping people step into that self, that part of that part of you that's not a part, that's your eternal self, that's underneath all the parts, that's really there. And I help people access that energy so they can understand themselves better. And then they make the decisions and create a vision for their life from that place, not from a place of protective, scared, fearful scarcity, like parts that might be stay, be quiet, stay safe. That's kind of how I was when Guiding Light first took me off. I was just absolutely, my parts just took over, and I went, I'm going to live from this place. And then I found a deeper power that I went, ooh, I'm going to live from here. Ooh. And it's getting permission to do that. So I hope people really find that within themselves, so then they can be in more a compassionate relationship with others.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. That's a little like, oof.
Yeah.
But I have all my, I really work with creating a vision and then learning about what is you want to feel more of on a day-to-day
And people
basis.
can learn more here.
Yeah.
If they would like. Tell us about the new video series, Parts Well Played.
Well, that's going to be a podcast that it's the intersection of my life coaching and my acting. And I'll be interviewing folks from both worlds and how acting influences life, acting principles influence life. And just sharing stories and rich conversations about other people's journey of how they, when are they more themselves? What parts are at play when you are actually really in the zone, and you're in that, there's a difference between having an agenda and trying to get stuff and trying to keep yourself safe versus when you're in the zone, when you're just in it, and time goes by and you're doing what you love, and you're more you. So it's sort of like a difference between a survival self and then your wise, healthy self. And
is this, did you say around March?
Oh, around March, yeah. And I'm going to be interviewing a lot of folks from Guiding Light. I'm going to be calling upon them, as well as a lot of people.
Call those friends up for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Because we're going to share stories about how they found their way towards what success is and what authenticity is. I'm really interested in that, in people's stories, and how they got out of, how did they get out of their dark night of the soul? There's a lot of wisdom to be learned from other people's stories.
I completely agree. That's exactly what I was going to say next. I mean, we all can learn from each other's stories, no matter what it is. You really just listen. You have to be open to the listening part. What advice would you give to a younger Liz Keifer starting out today?
Ooh. Yeah. Oh, if I wish I would tell her to stop trying to please other people. Stay out of other people's business. Get back into your own. I call it the U-turn. When you're in I was so worried about being right and being loyal and being what you needed me to be. I spent a decade perfecting a mask, like a perfect mask of this is what I'll present, because what's behind it is not enough. I'm not ready to show, or whatever it was. There's a lot of reasons, but I would tell that girl to like take that mask off and stop worrying about other people and just start listening to yourself, because there's deep wisdom there.
I love that. Great advice.
Yeah.
44 years ago, Guiding Light came into your life. When you look back and you think about Springfield, what comes to mind?
meant to be, family. It's such a strong connection. Passion. I mean, I can still go back to first watching it and being passionate. I organized my whole day around it. All my classes were around it. It was
pre-VCR days.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, just incredible connection and gratitude. And I love how the universe works. I mean, of course I ended up there.
Of course, my mother learned to speak English. Yes.
Yeah.
I applied right out of college, not knowing that I wanted to do PR. I just wanted to work there, and I didn't get it then. And 10 years later, when I had been in the PR world, I got the job.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, So I can't, I want to hear your story.
It's wild. But I never thought of that as well in the same way, but you're right. It really was meant to be.
Yeah.
And then this gift coming out of it as well, which would never have imagined back.
Right. And
never.
what you do for this community, Alan. Oh my gosh. Like
Thanks.
you're right up there with Betty Ray. You are. You bring us all together, and you're that glue, and we're all very grateful. And
well, that's the the bonus gift of what this has brought is not realizing how it would bring you all back together, because we all have, life takes us in so many different directions, but it really has put so many people back in each other's paths. And that I feel grateful to myself for.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of that, do you realize that this coming fall it's going to be the
20th Daytime Stars and Stripes. Yeah.
Continuing to bring us all together. I mean, 20 years.
20 years that you two started that is just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah. So that's always fun too.
Yeah. Well, my dear, what a fun hour. I kept you longer.
Oh,
I thank you. And I know many fans were asking about this. You can support the Locher Room.
I'm getting one.
I will put it up for a minute. You can go there. As the World Turns, Guiding Light, and Another World, names like this, mugs, t-shirts, and sweatshirts. But it really does help support this work. Lizzie, I hope to see you in person. Let's continue that conversation we were having.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely.
What a great way to celebrate the fans. I mean, talk about connection. I mean, that's the thing. Our show went off the air in 2009, and people are here. And somebody just said an hour is not enough. Like it's just.
Yeah, I agree. And
that connection is just. I think the powers that be on all networks did not realize the community of people who love these shows.
And there's so much power to it. They did not realize. But I'm grateful that we continue to honor it and live it.
100%.
Yeah,
we should.
Always.
Erna did good by all of us.
Yeah. Did you see the show that's been on that was put up on it's one of the websites with Guiding Light, and it's the radio show. It's the redo.
When you guys did the radio show.
Oh my gosh, Beth Eller's playing Irma Phillips. Oh my gosh, she was amazing. That was great. We redid a whole show on the story of
the radio. Recording the radio. Yeah. Love that, black and white. Was that Ellen who did that? Might have been Ellen. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
it was great.
Ron Raines was the narrator. Hugh Downs, right? Yeah, everybody played a part, a character, an actual character, and I played the Rose, the Irma's
her assistant.
sidekick. Yeah,
Yeah,
assistant that transcribed everything.
everything, because
Yeah.
no computers or typewriters,
Right.
really.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. It was great.
yeah. I love you. Thank you so much for doing this.
And thank everybody. Thank you all so much.
Absolutely. Thanks everybody for joining us today. Thank you to Liz Keifer. I couldn't think of a better way to spend this hour. LizKeifer.com if you want to learn more about the work she is doing. Please join me next Wednesday, January 31st, when actor, writer, director, and producer Adam Huss stops by to talk about his recent return to General Hospital as Nicholas Cassadine. If you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do so down below. Turn on the notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. It helps. And if you liked today's episode, which I sure hope you did, click the like button. And remember, you can stream audio versions by searching the Locher Room on your favorite streaming platform, everybody. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next week. And as always, please stay safe.